The keys to an $850,000 penthouse felt cold in my hand, a wedding gift intended for my only son. Oh, but as I stood in that empty midtown apartment, my phone buzzed with an anonymous warning. Don't go to your son's wedding. Run. I assumed it was a cruel prank until I called the number back. The voice on the other end belonged to Philip Warren, my former business partner, whom I hadn't spoken to in 8 years. What he told me in that 3-minute conversation shattered my world. Philip had overheard Tyler, his fiancée Vanessa, and a shady lawyer at a coffee shop. They weren't planning a wedding, they were planning a heist. Tyler had bragged about how I trust him completely and signed documents without reading them. Their goal, like to liquidate my 40 years of hard-earned real estate holdings and have me declared mentally incompetent shortly after the honeymoon. My son wasn't waiting for an inheritance. He was planning to throw me into assisted living to fast-track his wealth. The memory of a late September evening flashed in my mind. Tyler had brought me routine estate papers, claiming our family lawyer had approved them. I was busy, distracted, and above all, I trusted him. I signed them without a second thought. Now, with only 9 days until the wedding, I found myself frantically tearing through my home office, desperate to find the evidence of my own signature on my death warrant. My son hadn't just broken my trust. He had signed my name to a plan that would erase my existence. I remembered that evening clearly. Tyler had walked into my office with a leather portfolio, distracting me with talk of wedding menus while I blindly initialed page after page. I thought I was securing my legacy. Instead, I was signing my own death warrant, tearing through my files. I finally found the documents labeled Estate Planning 2024. My blood turned to ice as I read the fine print. It wasn't a trust. It was a full power of attorney, giving Tyler total control. He had moved my properties into a shell company called Grant Family LLCA Business, where I held zero ownership. Even worse, he had already signed a secret agreement to sell my $45 million portfolio to an investment group for a mere $18 million. He was selling my life's work for pennies just to get a quick payout. I hired Michael Torres, a veteran private investigator, to dig into Tyler's fiancée, Vanessa, and the attorney on the documents, Derek Walsh. By that evening, the truth hit me like a freight train. Vanessa and Tyler were drowning in debt, but the real shock was Vanessa's identity. Her legal name used to be Stephanie Walsh. She was Derek Walsh's sister. Memory flooded back 15 years ago. I had fired a young intern named Derek Walsh for fraud. I had blacklisted him, effectively ending his career at any major firm. His parting words haunted me. One day you'll regret this. He hadn't forgotten. He had spent 15 years grooming his sister to hunt my son. Vanessa had targeted Tyler at a real estate summit 3 years ago, weaving a web of deception that turned my own flesh and blood against me. But Tyler wasn't just a victim. Philip's recording proved he was an active participant, laughing about my impending dementia and the assisted living facility they had picked out for me on Sunday. I hosted them for dinner. I played the role of the doting father, smiling as they talked about their savings for a Maldives honeymoon, knowing they were actually broke. When I excused myself, I left a recording device hidden near the table. Through the feed, I heard Vanessa's chilling voice. "Your father is too trusting. Derek says the documents are foolproof. We move the second we're back from the honeymoon. They think they have 6 days to finish me. They have no idea that 40 years of business warfare has prepared me for this moment. They want a wedding. I'm going to give them a funeral for their ambitions." I stood in the shadows of my own home, listening to my son's voice through my phone as he laughed with his co-conspirators. "The old man has no idea," Tyler chuckled. "He'll be rotting in assisted living while we run the empire." I splashed cold water on my face, forced a smile, and finished the dinner. It was the last time I would ever tell him I loved him and mean it. Monday morning, I laid the evidence out for my attorney, Thomas Sullivan. When I mentioned Derek Walsh, Tom's face turned grim. "Theodore, you blacklisted him in 2009 for fraud. This isn't just a heist. It's a 15-year revenge plot. We moved with surgical precision, legal injunction. We froze Grant Family LLC to block any property transfers. Federal intervention. I met with the FBI to report wire fraud and criminal conspiracy, disinheritance. I updated my will, leaving my entire $45 million estate to the Atlanta Housing Foundation. Tyler was left with nothing but a zero-dot professional. Ruin. We filed a bar complaint against Derek Walsh to ensure he would never practice law again. All week, I played the part. I texted Tyler about seating charts and flowers, pretending to be the doting father. Friday night, a judge signed the emergency injunction. The trap was locked. Saturday morning, October 19th. I put on my best charcoal suit and tucked my late wife's wedding ring into my pocket. At the venue, I saw them. Vanessa in her white dress, 3 years of acting finally reaching its climax, on Derek Walsh, smirking from the sidelines. The ceremony was a hollow play. I walked my son down the aisle, delivering him to the very fate he had crafted for me. They exchanged vows. They kissed. The guests cheered for a love that didn't exist. At the reception, 150 of Atlanta's elite sat for dinner. I walked to the microphone. The room went silent. "Well," Derek leaned back, tasting victory. "Thank you all for being here," I began. "As Tyler's father, I've looked forward to this. But tonight, I want to talk about a different kind of partnership. The kind built on a 15-year-old grudge and a pile of forged documents." I pressed play on my phone. The speakers boomed with Vanessa and Tyler's voices, discussing how they would move fast to put me in an old-age home once the wedding was over. The room erupted in gasps. I held up the ledger of their debts, Vanessa's $340,000, credit card bill, and Tyler's secret loans. They weren't planning a honeymoon, I told the crowd. They were planning a liquidation. Tyler stood up, his face pale as death. "Dad, you don't understand." "No, Tyler," I said, my voice cutting through his stuttering excuses. "You don't understand the snakes you've invited to your table." I turned my gaze to Derek Walsh. "Derek, tell the room why I fired you in 2009. Tell them about the falsified appraisals and the fraud." Derek's face twisted into a mask of pure hatred. "Derek is Vanessa's brother," I announced to the 150 stunned guests. "Her name was Stephanie Walsh until she changed it to Hunt, my son. This wasn't a marriage. It was a 3-year siege." I looked at Tyler, seeing the boy I'd raised and the stranger he'd become. "I hoped you were a victim, son. But I heard you laugh. I heard you call my life's work your empire." The room exploded into chaos as I signaled the officers. "I have executed a new will. My $45 million estate goes to the Atlanta Housing Foundation. Myler, you inherit nothing. Stephanie, you inherit nothing. Derek, you face the FBI." Handcuffs clicked. The happy couple was led away, not in a limousine, but in a squad car. The wedding was over, and so was my family. That night, I sat alone in my dark office. Philip Warren called. "I'm sorry it came to this, Theodore," he said quietly. "Don't be. Phil, you gave me the truth when my own blood gave me lies. After 15 years, I had my friend back, but I had lost my son to the very empire I'd built for him. I wondered, did I work too much when I teach him that money was the only language we spoke? Other children grow up with busy fathers and don't become predators. Tyler made his choice. Sunday morning, I drove to the $850,000 penthouse. The sunrise over Atlanta was breathtaking, but the rooms were hollow. I stood there with the keys in my pocket, a gift for a son who no longer existed to me. "What would you say, Margaret?" I whispered to the empty air. I knew my wife would value family, but she also valued the truth. I had defended what we built, but the victory felt like ashes. My phone buzzed. A text from Tyler. "Can we talk?" I didn't delete it. I didn't reply. I just stared at the screen. Maybe someday, but not today. I am 72 years old now. I defended my principles. I exposed the betrayal, and I ensured that justice was served. Every decision I made was legally and morally perfect. Yet, I eat dinner alone every night. That is the hidden cost of being right. To those of you listening to these grandpa stories, I leave you with this. When you are betrayed, protect yourself. Demand accountability. But ask yourself, 10 years from now, what will you regret more? Letting them get away with it, or being the only one left standing in an empty empire? I chose justice. Some days, I'm proud of that. Other days, I stand at Margaret's grave and wonder if I should have chosen mercy.